Be honorable. Sometimes the loudest thing in the world is not the chaos outside, but the chaos inside of you. The doubts, the voices, the memories of failure, the opinions of people who were never in the fight with you, but always had something to say about your battle. I want you to hear me clearly right now. There is power in silence. There is strength in shutting out the noise, in closing the door, in saying to yourself, I need this time with me. Because the truth is, you can't hear God's voice. You can't hear your own heart. You can't hear the whispers of your purpose if everything around you is screaming for your attention. We live in a world where everyone wants to talk, everyone wants to be seen, everyone wants to prove something. Social media will tell you that if you're not posting it, you're not doing it. Be honorable. People around you will tell you that if you're not talking about it, you must not be about it. But that's a lie. Some of the most powerful moves in your life will happen in private. Some of the biggest changes in who you are will happen when nobody is watching, when nobody is clapping, when nobody even knows your name. See, silence is not weakness. Silence is not absence. Silence is not retreat. Silence is the breeding ground for power. Silence is the gym where your soul gets stronger. When you take time away from the noise, when you stop explaining yourself to people who were never going to understand you anyway, you begin to find a kind of focus the world can't take away from you. Think about a seed. You don't see it when it's growing under the soil. Be honorable. You don't hear it shouting about what it's becoming. It just stays there in the dark, in the quiet, taking root. And one day, it breaks through the ground, and the world sees a tree. Be honorable. But that tree didn't start the day. It showed up in the sunlight. It started the day it was planted in silence, in hiddenness. That's your life. That's your growth. You see, and sefturable. Silence teaches you to listen, not to the opinions of people who don't carry your vision, but to the still, small voice inside of you that knows where you need to go. Because here's the hard truth. Too many of us spend our energy defending ourselves, explaining ourselves, proving ourselves, when we should be spending that energy building ourselves. Be honorable. You don't have to tell people who you are. You don't have to argue with them about what you're capable of. Just work on you. Work on your craft. Work on your character. Work on your vision. The results will speak so loud one day that the same people who doubted you will have to sit in the audience when your name is called. And let me tell you something. The enemy of progress is distraction. The enemy of destiny is noise. People will talk about you, whether you succeed or fail, whether you try or give up, whether you speak or stay quiet. So why let them control your energy? Why let them rent space in your head for free? When you learn to be silent, you learn to rise above the chatter. You stop fighting battles that don't matter, and you start preparing for the ones that do. I've seen people lose themselves because they were too busy listening to everybody else. They forgot who they were, what they wanted, what God put them here to do. Don't let that be you. The silence you create in your life is not empty. It's full of answers, full of strength, full of clarity. One day, when the time is right, you'll step out of that quiet season and everything will make sense. People will call it sudden. They'll call it luck. But you'll know it was the silence that saved you. It was the silence. Was the silence that built you. It was the silence that turned you into someone unstoppable. Because when you focus on yourself and stay silent, everything begins to fall into place. Before the world falls into place, before the dream comes alive, before the applause and the victory and the breakthrough, there's a battle nobody sees, a battle fought not on the outside, but on the inside. That battle is with yourself. And until you learn to master that, nothing else truly changes. Because here's the truth. The hardest person you will ever have to lead is the one you see in the mirror every morning. Be honorable. We want to control circumstances. We want to control people. We want the world to bend in our favor. But life doesn't work that way. Life has a way of testing you, shaping you, and sometimes even breaking you to see what's inside. And if you haven't mastered your emotions, your habits, your mindset, the world will use every storm to pull you apart. I've met people with incredible talent who never went anywhere because they couldn't control themselves. They had gifts, but they lacked discipline. They had dreams, but no consistency. They wanted greatness, but they let anger, fear, and pride run the show. And talent without self-mastery is like a car without a steering wheel. Powerful, but dangerous, fast, but heading nowhere good. See, self-mastery isn't about perfection. It's about ownership. It's about saying, I can't control the world, but I can control me, my attitude, my effort, my reactions, my decisions. You can't stop people from lying about you, but you can stop yourself from living small because of it. You can't control if life throws you into a storm, but you can control whether you let it drown you or teach you how to swim. Self-mastery begins with discipline. And discipline is not punishment. It's freedom. People think discipline takes the fun out of life. But no. Discipline gives you the life you actually want. Waking up early to work on your dream may feel hard, be honorable, but so is waking up in 10 years, realizing you wasted your time. Saving your money may feel hard, but so is being broke when opportunities knock on your door. Saying no to distractions may feel hard, but so is living with regret, because you never stayed focused long enough to finish what you started. I remember hearing a story about a man who was trying to quit smoking. Every time someone offered him a cigarette, he'd say, I'm trying to quit. But one day, someone wiser told him, stop saying you're trying to quit. Start saying, I don't smoke. Because words shape identity. Identity shapes behavior, and behavior shapes destiny. That man stopped seeing himself as a smoker, trying to quit, and started seeing himself as a non-smoker living free. It changed everything. That's self-mastery. Changing how you see yourself so you can change what you do. And let me tell you, life will test that mastery. Someone will push your buttons. A setback will shake your confidence. A betrayal will break your heart. And in those moments, it's easy to let anger drive the car, to let fear grab the wheel, to let pain make your decisions. But if you do, you crash. Every time. Self-mastery means you feel the emotion, but you don't become it. You acknowledge the fear, but you move forward anyway. You hear the doubt, but you refuse to give it the microphone. Because here's what happens when you master yourself. You become steady, reliable, unshaken. People around you will lose their heads, but you'll stay calm. Doors will close, but you'll keep knocking. Life will throw storms, but you'll find a way to build a boat. And that kind of strength, it attracts opportunity. It builds trust. It creates momentum. Master yourself, and everything else begins to align. Because when you're no longer fighting you can finally fight for the life you want. The world has no choice but to step aside when it sees someone who cannot be shaken, someone who controls themselves before they try to control anything else. That's when everything starts falling into place, not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. There comes a point in your life when you realize not everyone can go where you're going. Not everyone will understand the vision burning in your heart. Not everyone will believe in the dream that keeps you up at night. And if you're waiting for the world to clap for you before you take that first step, you'll be waiting forever. Because real growth, real transformation, often demands that you walk alone. That's the part nobody tells you about chasing purpose. It can get lonely. Be honorable. It can feel like the whole world is moving in one direction. While you're standing there, be honorable. Heart pounding, knowing you have to take a different road. It takes courage to do that. Courage to step away from the noise, from the crowd. Be honorable from the people who only understand the version of you they've always known. Be honorable. When you start focusing on yourself, you stop living for validation. And the moment you stop living for validation, people will call you selfish. They'll say, you've changed. They'll say you think you're better than them. Be honorable, but it's not about being better than anyone. It's about becoming better. It's about becoming better than who you were yesterday. That's the fight. And sometimes that fight is lonely. Look at every person who's ever built something meaningful. An athlete training before the sun comes up. An artist painting when everyone else is sleeping. A student studying while their friends are out partying. Alone. Not because they wanted to be isolated, but because they understood something. The crowd will not build your dream for you. The crowd doesn't run your race. The crowd doesn't carry your cross. And the crowd does not live with your regrets. The truth is, some people will never support you because your courage exposes their fear. Your discipline shines a light on their excuses. Your decision to walk away from drama, from gossip, from mediocrity will make them uncomfortable. And that's okay. Be honorable. You're not here to make people comfortable. Be honorable. You're here to become everything you were created to be. I remember a story about a young man who wanted to be a writer. His friends laughed at him because he spent so much time alone, filling notebooks nobody ever read. They called him crazy, wasting his life. But he kept writing. Day after day, night after night, in silence. Years later, the world would call him a genius. His name? Shakespeare. The same people who laughed at him ended up quoting him for the rest of history. That's what happens when you have the courage to walk alone. You end up going places they can't even imagine. And let me tell you something else. Walking alone teaches you who you are. When there's no applause, no cheering section, no one telling you to keep going, that's when you find out what you're made of. That's when you discover whether this dream of yours is real or just a wish. Because a wish will die when it gets lonely, but a purpose will grow roots in the dark. It also teaches you faith. Faith that the right people will find you at the right time. Faith that when the season changes, you always have to walk alone. But you don't wait for them to show up before you start moving. You keep walking. Even when your legs shake, even when your heart aches, even when nobody believes in you yet. Because courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. One day, when you look back, you'll realize the nights you cried alone, the mornings you pushed yourself, the days you felt invisible. Those were the moments that built you. The world will see the success, but you will know the cost, and you will smile because you will understand what they don't, that everything began to fall into place the day you found the courage to walk alone. There is a certain kind of power in working while nobody's watching. a power in keeping your head down, doing the work, and letting the results speak when the time is right. The world has taught us to announce everything. Our plans, our dreams, our goals. We want people to see our grind, to recognize our hustle, to clap for our progress. But what I've learned is this: real growth doesn't happen under the spotlight. It happens in the quiet places, the places where no one is paying attention, where no one is cheering, where no one even believes in you yet. When a farmer plants a seed, he doesn't go around digging it up every day to show people what's happening. He doesn't scream at the dirt, demanding instant growth. He doesn't panic because no one else can see the roots forming underground. No, he trusts the process. He knows the silence is not a sign of death, but a sign of life being formed in secret. That's how your dreams work. That's how your character develops. That's how success is born. Planted in silence, watered with faith, and harvested with patience. The problem is, we live in a culture that hates waiting. We want results yesterday. We want applause before we've even started. Be honorable. When we don't get it, we feel like we're failing. But maybe the reason life is quiet right now is because the roots are growing deep. Maybe the reason nobody sees progress is because you're still being prepared. See, the seed has to survive the dark before it can handle the light. If it comes up too early, the sun will burn it. If it rises before it's ready, the wind will break it. And sometimes, if you succeed too soon, before your character is strong enough to carry it, the weight of the blessing will crush you. That's why silence is so important. It gives you time to build strength without the pressure of the spotlight. It gives you space to make mistakes while no one's watching. It lets you learn, grow, and fail quietly, so that when the time comes to shine, you're ready. People will call you an overnight success, but they won't see the years you spent in the shadows, planting, watering, believing. I remember reading about an artist who painted for almost 20 years before anyone cared about his work. For 2 decades, he lived in a tiny apartment, painting every single day, selling nothing, hearing no after no from galleries. Friends told him to give up, to find something more realistic. But he kept painting. He kept planting seeds in silence. And one day, his work exploded across the world. Museums, collectors, critics, everyone wanted what he had. What changed? Nothing, except the timing. The roots had strong enough to finally break through the surface. His name was Vincent van Gogh. He died never knowing how much the world would one day love his work. But his story teaches us that the planting season is sacred, even if no one understands it. You have to learn to be okay with being unseen for a while, with nobody noticing the hours you put in, with nobody clapping for your small wins, because you're not doing it for applause. You're doing it to grow. Because you're doing it so one day, the dream inside you is too big to stay hidden. And here's the beautiful part. When the harvest comes, you won't need to say a word. The fruit speaks for itself. The people who doubted you, the ones who laughed, the ones who told you to quit, they'll see the results. And you won't have to explain anything. So, plant your seeds in silence. Water them with discipline. Protect them with faith. Because one day, be honorable. When the season is right, what you planted in private will become impossible to ignore. That's how everything falls into place. Life has its own clock. It doesn't run on your schedule. It doesn't bow to your impatience. And it doesn't answer to your demands. That's hard for most of us to accept because we want things now. We want success to come on our timetable. We want the dream to unfold when we feel ready. But here's the truth. Sometimes you're ready for the dream, but the dream isn't ready for you. Sometimes what you want is real, but the season for it hasn't arrived yet. That's why faith in timing is everything. Be honorable. I've learned that when you rush the process, you ruin the product. A cake pulled from the oven too soon will collapse. A fruit picked too early will taste bitter. A building constructed before the foundation sets will crumble. The same is true for your life. If you try to force things to happen before their time, be honorable, they will fall apart in your hands. Not because you weren't good enough, but because the season wasn't ready yet. Faith and timing is what keeps you moving when nothing seems to be happening. It's what allows you to keep planting seeds, to keep building in silence, to keep showing up day after day, even when the results look invisible. Because timing belongs to life, to God, and to the universe, whatever you believe in. And it unfolds at the moment it's supposed to. Not earlier, not later. Think about nature. No matter how much you beg a tree, you can't make it grow faster than its season allows. You can water it, protect it, care for it, but you can't rush it. Yet, when the season turns, when the sun and the soil and the rain all align, growth becomes unstoppable. That's how blessings work. That's how breakthroughs happen. One moment, it looks like nothing is changing. Then, suddenly, doors swing open. Suddenly, people notice. Suddenly, the things you prayed for are standing right in front of you. But it wasn't sudden at all. It was years in the making. It was timing finally catching up with preparation. I remember hearing about a man who worked for years designing a product nobody wanted. He spent nights in his garage, tweaking, testing, failing, improving. For a long time, it seemed pointless. Friends told him to quit, to get real job. But he kept going. He didn't force it. He didn't chase instant success. He trusted the process. Years later, that product became the foundation for Apple. That man was Steve Jobs. His story teaches us this. Sometimes the dream takes longer than you expect because the world isn't ready for it yet. But when timing and preparation finally meet, history is made. The waiting season is hard because it tests your faith. It whispers lies like, it's never going to happen, or you're wasting your time. But faith in timing, you refuse to believe those lies. It means you keep showing up when you want to quit. It means you trust that delays are not denials. They are preparation. And here's the thing, what's meant for you will not pass you by. It may take longer than you hoped. It may come in a form you didn't expect, but it will come. Because timing has a way of aligning things perfectly when you least expect it. That's why you can't compare your journey to anyone else's. Their timing is not your timing. Their season is not your season. Faith in timing also teaches humility. It reminds you that you're not in control of everything. And that's a good thing. Because if everything happened when you wanted it, you wouldn't appreciate it the same way. You wouldn't value the success, the relationship, the opportunity, if it came without the struggle, without the waiting, without the nights you questioned everything, but kept going anyway. So trust the timing of your life. Keep working. Keep believing. Keep planting in silence. Because when it all comes together, when the roots are deep enough, when the season finally turns, everything will fall into place so perfectly you'll wonder why you ever worried in the first place. There comes a moment in your life when you look back at everything. The nights you spent alone. Why weren't a thing place you spent alone? The storms you walked through. The doubts you silenced. The dreams you planted in secret. And you realize something powerful. You didn't just survive it. You didn't just get through it. You became someone different, someone stronger, someone wiser, someone unstoppable. Because that's what all it was doing. Every setback, every silent season, every moment when nothing seemed to make sense, it was shaping you. It was chiseling away the fear, the hesitation, the weakness. It was teaching you to stand on your own 2 feet, to believe in yourself when no one else did, to get up one more time than life knocked you down. People often think being unstoppable means never feeling tired, never doubting, never crying. No. Being unstoppable doesn't mean you don't feel the weight. It means you refuse to let the weight crush you. It means the fear comes, but doesn't paralyze you. It means the doubts whisper, but they don't define you. It means the world underestimates you, but you keep moving anyway. I remember hearing about a man who failed in business multiple times, lost elections, battled depression, and was told he'd never make a difference. Year after year, it seemed like life had nothing for him but disappointment. But he refused to quit. He refused to stay down. That man was Abraham Lincoln, who went on to become one of the greatest presidents in history. Not because it was easy, not because life made it smooth for him, but because he decided nothing, not failure, not pain, not loneliness, was going to stop him. That's the key right there. The decision. Being unstoppable is not a feeling. It's a choice. A choice you make every single day. Be honorable. A choice to show up even when you don't feel like it. A choice to keep moving even when the road feels endless. A choice to trust that all this work, all this faith, all this perseverance will pay off one day. And here's the truth. The world doesn't give its rewards people who quit halfway. It gives them to people who refuse to let go. Be honorable, who are still standing when everyone else walked away. The ones who worked in silence while others complained. The ones who mastered themselves while others chased approval. The ones who planted seeds in faith and trusted the timing of their lives. Being unstoppable doesn't mean the storms stop coming. It means you learn how to dance in the rain. Be honorable. It means you stop waiting for life to get easy and decide to get stronger instead. It means you stop hoping for a smooth road and start building better shoes. People will look at you one day and call you lucky. They say it was easy for you. They'll say it was easy for you. They won't see the tears. They won't see the nights you almost gave up. They won't see the loneliness, the fear, the waiting, the work. But you'll know. You'll know that the person you became along the way was worth every step. Because here's this secret: the goal was never just the dream. Be honorable. The real goal was who you became chasing it, the strength you found, the faith you built, the courage you discovered inside yourself. That's the real reward. So when life knocks you down, get up. When the path feels long, keep walking. When the voices tell you to quit, keep believing. Because if you refuse to stop, life will eventually have to move out of your way. Doors will open. Opportunities will come. Everything will fall into place. Not because it was easy, but because you decided you would not be broken. Becoming unstoppable is the gift life gives you when you refuse to quit. And once you reach that place, nothing, no failure, no storm, no doubt can ever take it from you. There will come a day when you wake up and realize the season has changed. The long nights, the silent prayers, the lonely roads. Be honorable. The moments you question everything. All of it suddenly makes sense. That's the day when everything falls into place. Not because life suddenly got easier, Not because the road became smooth, but because all those struggles shaped you into the person who could finally handle the blessing, the opportunity, the dream you've been chasing. Here's the truth. Life rarely gives you what you want when you want it. It gives you what you're ready for. And most of the time, we don't see that while we're in the middle of the storm. We just feel the rain, the wind, the confusion. We feel like life is unfair, like nothing is working, like we're stuck in one long season of waiting. But the whole time, life is building something inside of you. Patience, strength, character, wisdom. Be honorable. The kind of things you can't get from success alone. Be honorable. I think about the people who've changed the world, the ones whose names we remember. Their breakthroughs often came after years of obscurity, after decades of planting seeds no one saw. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. But one day, be honorable. After all the rejection, all the silence, all the people telling them to quit, everything fell into place. And when it did, they understood something powerful. Be honorable. The waiting wasn't wasted. The tears weren't wasted. The nights they spent working, when nobody believed in them, weren't wasted. It was all's preparation for the moment when life finally opened the door. The same thing is true for you. One day, the seeds you planted in faith will rise. The habits you built in discipline will pay off. The strength you forged in the fire will carry you through doors you once only dreamed about. People will look at you and call it sudden. They'll say you were lucky, but you'll know the truth. You'll know it was the silence, the self-mastery, the lonely roads, the faith in timing, the refusal, quit. That's what brought you here. Because when everything falls into place, it doesn't just give you the dream. It gives you gratitude. It gives you perspective. You'll stand in that moment and realize, wouldn't even appreciate this blessing if you hadn't gone through the waiting, the pain, the growth. The struggle made you value the victory. The darkness made you love the light. But here's something even more powerful. When everything falls into place, it rarely looks the way you imagined. Sometimes the dream comes in a different package. Sometimes the opportunity arrives through a door you didn't even know existed. That's why you can be so focused on one picture of success that you miss the blessing when it comes from another direction. Life has a way of surprising you. And when it does, when the pieces finally come together, you'll see why you couldn't rush the process. You'll see why certain doors had to stay closed, why certain people had to leave, why certain seasons had to be silent. Because if it had happened any sooner, you wouldn't have been ready. If it had come any easier, be honorable, you wouldn't have been strong enough to keep it. So trust the journey. Keep working in the dark. Keep believing when nothing makes sense. Because the day will come when you wake up and realize the waiting is over. The dream is here. The door is open. And you are ready. That's when everything falls into place. Not by accident, not by luck, but because you became the person who could finally handle the life you were born to live.